Welcome back, everyone, to the latest episode of FYI with yours truly, a voter education program. Nakatingin na sa akin ang mga guests ngayon as we speak because medyo makasaysayan na araw ngayon. Kasama po natin my former professor, Professor Ranjit. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Yes.
I think this is the first time we have met each other in years, or maybe not. And of course, Attorney Dino, thank you so much. Attorney Dino, let me start with you first because I know maraming gustong sabihin si Prof. Ranjit, especially on the press conference the other day. Again, as of this taping, what is your read of the ongoing legal debate? Let's just be honest about it. There is an ongoing legal debate. On my platforms, I had someone of stature of Justice Carpi even saying that he was not sure whether this was an, let's just call it an orthodox approach. I think the term he used was outside the box. Some would say, was it a rendition case, right? So as we speak, even people who are not pro-Duterte are raising some legal concerns. And I'm sure there are other legal luminaries who are also aware of their argument, either through words of mouth or actually they're already open about it. Dino, you work at The Hague, right? You are familiar with that place. Maybe later on we'll ask about the food accommodation to assure the family about their well-being there. No, but tell me, what is your legal reading of the situation?
Well, there is a legal debate and that is normal.
Yeah.
In fact, we like that, no? And no one can claim to be an expert here because it's very rare that we encounter crimes against humanity, diba? Even Justice Carpio cannot say that he is an expert. I cannot say that I am an expert because we have very limited experience and very limited jurisprudence. Having said that, no, I think that the legal basis of the Marcos administration is very clear. Some legal scholars are looking at the ICC rules and the Rome Statute as a basis. But let's remember that the one who is enacting the arrest warrant is a non-member state, which is the Philippines. So I don't think it would be wise to take a look at the rules of the ICC because it does not bind us anymore. And it's rules. It's prospective. It's not retroactive, right?
But the jurisdiction of the ICC is supposed to apply to the years we were part of them, right?
Correct. But the arrest right now, we're no longer a member. So I don't think the rules govern us because rules are prospective, right? So unlike substantive rules, which are retroactive. So I don't think that it would be wise to take a look at the rules. And it does not mind the Philippines.
So that's one thing not to do. Okay, what else?
And the second thing that I'm taking a look at is what binds us then? And it is the Interpol obligation. Yeah. And according to the red notice, right, the moment that we receive that red notice, we should forthwith deliver it to the requesting.
Oh, wait.
It's not word.
Is this the same word that the Senate is still debating?
I'm just saying, sorry. Forthwith is not found there, but I like using it now. But you should immediately deliver. You have that responsibility.
This is
right.
immediate.
Yeah. You should immediately deliver if there is no legal limitation. And at that point in time, when President Marcos was executing, or the Marcos administration was executing the arrest warrant through the Philippine National Police, there was no legal barrier preventing them from turning over President Duterte. Until 1103, they had the chance to get a TRO from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not issue a TRO. So since there is no legal barrier, and there is a request coming from the Interpol, and we are a state party of the Interpol, consistent as well with jurisprudence, which is Marcos versus Manglapus. If you would recall, President Aquino tried to prevent the Marcoses from returning in the country, right? And the legal doctrine there is the executive has immense power, residual powers of the president to ensure that there's going to be public safety in the Philippines and that our laws will be upheld, diba? And that there's going to be there's going to be a promotion of security or our security will not be compromised. Pag iniwan mo yung Duterte dito,
gulo niyan.
Gulo yan. So consistent with Marcos versus Manglapus, the residual powers of the president, there was no legal barrier at that point in time. Then we had to abide by our legal obligations towards the Interpol.
Ay, Dino, dapat ikaw yata yung naging spokesman. But keeping aside, Professor Ranjit, before going to the press conference, which we'll discuss in terms of the government's own narrative, because we're not government spokespeople, we're saying this as independent scholars and civil society members. But what is your read of it from an operational standpoint? Because many were expecting Duterte to be smart enough to just duke it out in Hong Kong, somewhere close to China, where he could feel safe enough. There's even a kind of a new conspiracy theory that maybe China threw him under the table, the same way they didn't honor their pledges of investment. Maybe China was the one who told him, like, I'm not sure you're really fully welcome here. And he said, wait, maybe I cannot bounce between Dubai and Macau, whatever. I'm just gonna go home and do my own thing. Because it kind of looked very reckless of Duterte to just go in like that, knowing there was already red notice and you already had declared war on this admin.
Yeah. Well, we don't know all the details, and
Right.
maybe that's the story that'll
Yet to be
unraveled,
investigated, yeah.
yet to be investigated, and will be unraveled over the future. But I think I want to go to the big issue items, big ticket items. Number one, this is deeply political, of course. There's a fight between the Dutertes and the Marcoses, but it should not be lost to anyone observing that justice is the key issue here. It's not. It's beyond Duterte. It's beyond Marcos. The idea and the big statement that the administration is saying is that we need to assert the rights, of victims, and that we have to find justice, closure to that very dark period in our recent historical past. Number two, we adhere to international tenets, or the international rules on or regulations on human rights. Okay, so and number three, that if we mean what we say and say what we mean about protecting the rights, not just of victims but everyone, this was a genuine opportunity for the government to reassert the long-standing position of many that we go back to the ICC. See,
Right.
all these issues about rendition,
Absolutely.
all these issues about uncertainty. Remember, there are other individuals who are still yet to be served a warrant who are part of this particular dark chapter.
You're talking about a certain senator, but everyone's
Okay,
looking
no,
for him.
I don't know.
If he's a rock
apparently,
now,
okay.
if he's in the
Yeah,
sky.
yeah, but it is to his own advantage.
Right.
If he be the leading spokesperson for re-entering the ICC, because it's very clear in the ICC rules how all of this will be clarified, the process, and how everyone will be given, certain leeways, even those accused. So being part of an international regime that respects rights is always important. We were one of the first signatories to the Rome Statute. I think the bigger issue here is going back to that. And I think that should be the clarion call of the 19th Congress. It will be a major achievement if we can
Right.
come back to the the ICC, as a member. And being a member has its advantages, even for those who are accused. So all these questions about uncertainty, about rendition, about how extraordinary,
Outside
they're
the box.
outside the box,
Yeah.
this whole thing would be clarified if we're part of this ICC again. So that's my
Right.
reading.
I want to go back to you, Dino. I mean, for me, let's talk about the press conference also. I know none of us barely slept, so it's like we are speaking of... The thing is, ang labo kasi ng position ng government eh. Time and again, BBM said he doesn't recognize the jurisdiction very strongly. One of his secretaries said he's gonna whisk away, not Duterte, but the investigators of ICC. And suddenly now they're whisking away Duterte. Suddenly a few months ago, oh no, but we cannot not cooperate. There is a credibility problem, right? Or at least there's a incongruence in that narrative. Was there ever a way to square that circle so that you can have a decent press conference? Because my point is, I don't think even a Harry Roque could have done that. Sasabi ko, sino ang Harry Roque ng Marcos admin? Because with all due respect, oh my God, this is quite a tricky narrative building, right? But obviously, your sense is, let's just go back to the basics. Ito yung issue ng rule of law, the victims. And I would add, actually, if I were Marcos, my stance would be this. We are asking the international community to help us in the West Philippine Sea based on the tenets of a rules-based
Yes,
international
yeah.
order. You cannot be selective and suddenly say, oh, but on this issue, we're not going to be helpful to
exactly.
you.
That's
You
it.
cannot play that game. And I literally confirmed this with, I had a conversation with Chancellor Scholz last year, just right after that meeting with BBM. And he confirmed, yes, we had a very constructive discussion on that. So I was reassured. And then when I was in Hague last year, around June, July, it was confirmed to me that the communication is happening. So sabi ko, kung may delay yan, negotiation na yan. Because, right, you tell me, this is ICC's only win so far. Netanyahu, good luck with that. Putin, good luck with that. Finding those guys in the cave in Afghanistan, good luck with that. I think there's one coming against the Myanmar junta leader. Good luck with that. This one, oh
It's
wow.
a huge win for the ICC.
Yeah,
Makes
the
them
only
relevant.
and huge win.
Yeah, legitimacy and relevance of the
Yeah,
ICC.
It's very
Yeah,
relevant.
yeah.
You tell me,
But
Dino.
going back to how the Marcos administration handled this, no, of course, we have to commend at least, and this is the
They
first
did the
time.
right thing. Yeah, they
this
did.
is the first time
It
that I'm
took
probably
Ferdinand
commending.
Marcos to take Duterte to ACC.
I'm commending the Marcos
Yes.
administration on record. This is shocking, right? It rarely happens, but they did the right
Yes.
thing, diba?
They did the
They
right
had the moral basis, they had the legal
Absolutely.
basis, and they had the courage to actually implement it swiftly, no? So that is commendable. Although, of course, I feel like there's a lot of lost opportunity in the press conference and somewhat in the execution, no? Because you should dapat the president came out like a
Yes.
senior statesman saying this shows our adherence to rules-based order, international law. For the families and victims, we are one with you.
Yeah.
The state is here to support you, to allow you to recover. We're all injured by what happened, but as one nation, we have to get up. And I set a warning to everyone who would think that the rule of law is something to be trifled on. The state will be watching you, and we've shown you our resolve, or something like that, right? Instead, it was as if they were dilly-dallying. They were unsure whether it was they were implementing the ICC warrant, or are they just adhering to our obligations to Interpol? Those were the questions.
Was it damage control? Because they feared there could be a massive backlash. I mean, I know shell-shocked, basically, the DDS camp, right? They're basically, like, you could see Bongo's face. I don't want to talk about Loren Batu and Philip Salvador, but they really look shell shocked to me. But we know, and I confirm, like Kapon, just before I went live on a kind of someone was calling a religious group na handa pala na mag-rally ng big time, just like how they did the other month, and suddenly they had to stop it. So, was it also about BBMs being afraid that this could create a kind of a mini insurrection or baka yun, again, I'm not trying to defend the lousy press conference, if I can put it that way.
No, but me is
Medyo
they're
baka
playing
ganun.
safe. They're playing safe.
Super safe.
But they already took the huge risk.
Yeah,
Might as well capitalize on that, because this was the moment. You turned the chapter. You said that, the Philippines adheres to international law. The Marcoses adhere to rule of law. Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Turn the page and
That's the irony of all of this.
you already took the step. Maximize it.
Maybe this is what you get when you mix the Romualdez and Marcos. Kasi parang he crossed the Rubicon and said, no, but this is like a tributary of Rubicon, not really the Rubicon River. Parang ganun ang
I just
nangyari.
think it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I guess
diba?
that's it. It's a missed,
Yes.
it's a missed opportunity. As I was asserting earlier.
Yeah.
The message is bigger than the Marcoses and the Dutertes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Diba? It's about rule of law. It's about going back to a regime.
It's about the victims, the
diba?
families.
And of
Correct.
course, at the end, it's about getting justice for the victims. It's about closure, or a process of closing a dark chapter in our history. And of course, reasserting, diba? What makes this administration different from the past.
Correct.
We believe in the rule of law. We believe in international norms, standards, institutions. Diba? No one is above the law.
Correct.
Okay? And that the state will go after you, whether it's Tanimbala or if you're President Duterte, it will go after you. If you violate the law and you question the legitimacy of the state.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the statement here. The statement was the missed opportunity here. The President could have gone beyond explaining the nitty-gritty and gone to a higher level. So, but anyway, there are other opportunities. Hopefully he can be
When Bato de la Rosa is arrested.
Maybe, or maybe he can join this podcast. As we speak, actually, to be honest, I'm trying to set up a kind of a podcast with the president because I feel he needs to relax a bit. Feeling ko kulang talaga siya ng spontaneity. I always say Sara Duterte is a poor copy of the dad when it comes to spontaneity. Sometimes I feel also BBM is a poor copy of his dad. I think his dad would have no problem sitting down here and just...
Doon naman, sometimes
So-
pa, always.
in-invite pa kasi natin siya.
Okay.
But just to be clear, walang nag-apply to be the spokesman. Actually, I had Attorney Claire Castro with me. Sabi ko, anong trabaho mo ulit? Press officer? So, sinong spokesman? Siya pa rin for himself. Saan siya? Like, is it gonna be a fireside chatting? No, but I want to go back to this. Victims. For me, I don't know if you watched in 1985 about desaparecidos in Argentina.
Yeah.
That really the tide turned when the victims came out and said, I was raped, I was harassed.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you could see, even yung mga families, relatives ng mga general and all of that, they said like, oh my God. And then eventually the tide turned. Parang feeling ko we never had that. You know, you have a great book by our good friend Patricia Evangelista. We were org mates in UP. Well, we were all competitors.
Yeah.
There's so much great stuff out there, but it's not the voice of the person. It's always refracted through the New York Times coverage, through the Rappler coverage, through our analysis. Wala tayong like legit documentaries, plural, over the years na binigyan talagang boses. Now, 19 ako kasi doon, baka patayin pa sila. Diba?
Yeah, there's always that fear.
But now, you have General Torre in charge of
Yeah.
CIDG, who's practically the enemy of the other side. You have a BBM who wants to show... Do you think this is time to bring out the victims and let them be heard? Not us, their spokesman or academics. Gusto ko marinig yung boses nila, literally yung boses ng mga biktima.
You know, when a state or when a nation encounters or experiences mass atrocity, there has to be a healing process, no? And usually there is a mechanism in international law. It's called transitional justice mechanisms, diba? So dapat, number one, right now, first question is, who's helping the victims?
Yeah.
What is our organized efforts to help the victims and their families recover from the trauma, from the deep pain and sorrow that they felt after their loved ones are murdered? No one. There's no state apparatus. There are no resources available except from well-meaning private sector
And
individuals
Catholic Church.
and Catholic
Yeah.
Church who have very
society.
menial resources. This has to be a well-organized, recovering from mass atrocity.
Institutionalized.
Institutionalized. Recovering from mass atrocity cannot be subject to volunteerism. Hopefully somebody will volunteer. No. We have to collectively get up as one people
Yeah.
to recover from the mass atrocity that we suffered. And of course, help the families who were traumatized. And afterwards, compensate them. They have to be compensated, and then they have to feel some semblance of justice. Now, the problem with usual justice mechanisms that we have is the quantum of proof required is so high, proof beyond reasonable doubt. And if there's a mass atrocity, usually binary na evidence, right? Kasi nga involve yung state apparatus. So in transitional justice mechanisms, what they do is they lower down the quantum of evidence required, right? They document what happened and they give you compensation. The closest that we have is the Human Rights Compensation
Yeah.
Board,
Or the
a Victims
martial
Compensation
law.
Board, right? There is some sense of acknowledgement that you were wrong by the state
At the very
and by the
least.
people. You are compensated, your story is documented, and hopefully there's going to be a museum, an archive of some sort,
Yeah.
because an integral part of transitional justice is memorialization.
Never again.
Never again.
Yes.
But more importantly, before never again, you have to hit a consensus as a people. Kasi ngayon wala pa tayong consensus. In fact, a lot of people are celebrating the death of thousands of people. Diba? It has to be a long process. And that can only happen if there is an institutionalized effort for
What about the
transitional
South
justice.
African case? I mean, I know in Latin America, they had pacted transitions and complicated process. I can talk about Pinochet's case, which got complicated. But let's talk about the South Africa case, for instance, whereby Mandela made a conscious decision not to go into this Rhodesia, Zimbabwe way. So he kind of went for something quite soft. But maybe that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Kasi you're saying there's no starting point. Who should start this, by the way? Civil society? Can you start it? Can we start it?
We start it, but there has to be a law. There has to be academics should discuss this.
Right.
This has to be a thesis topic by doctorate students on how can we move forward. Kasi there are
Yeah.
different models for transitional justice. Sabi nila iba, truth, reconciliation. Pwedeng reconciliation is the priority, not necessarily the truth because we want to move on. Pwedeng truth lang, not reconciliation. Truth,
Yeah.
reconciliation, accountability. Pwedeng kalimutan yung accountability just so that we can, di ba yung sa Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis, they
Yeah.
still have to
Well, that
live
was
with
a
each other.
genocide.
Right.
That was
But they
genocide.
still have to live with each other in one nation. So they had to move
Yeah.
on. Right. So there are different varying models, but definitely the discussion right now should already be not just, Duterte and Marcoses and, but the victims and how do we recover from this as one
Yeah.
nation. That has to be always part of the public discourse, which I regretfully we don't see a lot of those discussions at this point. In time.
That's why, Professor Ranjit, fighting against disinformation would be important, right? As we speak, I was doing live interviews and I could see like people attacking, wala naman jurisdiction yan, or wala naman nangyaring EJK, ano lang, isolated case. Like, am I still hearing this in 2025 as Duterte is literally being flown away to an international court, that there's still people holding on to that. And I want to give benefit of the doubt. I don't think it's all trolls. I think some of them are genuinely misinformed. I would rather use misinformed people and disinformation campaign. It's not true na, these are all trolls. At the same time, I think there's some people who genuinely think Duterte is the victim here. How do you get the truth out that the true victims are actually literally the victims, the ones who were killed, who unlike Duterte will never have their day in court, especially a first world court like in Den Haag.
I completely agree we were discussing this before your interview.
Yeah.
That transitional justice has to start with the state initiating the first move, in my view. And it's already started, although indirectly, but it's very effective, the Quadcom hearings. It's a part of a truth-telling, truth commission type of exercise. We all know it was the fight between the Dutertes and the Marcoses, the externality. Has been something good, with
positive externality. I think
it's
economic
positive
term.
externality. The unintended consequence.
Yeah, yeah.
The definition of externality has always been, the truth, di ba? It has come out. What has happened in the last administration, how they mismanaged funds, the rekindling of that focus on human rights victims. So the state has to come in. That's why, we encourage the national government to start a commission, a truth-telling commission, about the war on drugs. Because the thing is, most people, you're right, most people supported the war on drugs. We have data to support that, and we were already there in 2021. But SWS has extensive data about people's perceptions about the crime, the drug war, and it's to my recollection, largely positive.
But Prof, I'll push back in that.
Yeah.
My argument is actually was dissonance. Remember, also 7 out of 10 said they feared being victims of
Exactly.
EJK. So that means baka they don't agree with the method, but they agree with the principle, but they're still you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're
it's
saying.
hard to have a legitimate expression of your true feelings when you're in a climate of fear and you have really mixed feelings. So dissonance ang basa ko dun
My sense is, one is to realize justice for victims.
Right.
The second part is to build institutions so it never happens again.
Never again.
That's why, number one, you be part of an international regime.
Rejoin ICC.
Rejoin ICC. That's one.
Yeah.
Number two, build a truth commission after this to talk about what has happened and possibly to compensate victims.
And a
it doesn't
museum
have to
at
be
least,
direct compensation of victims. It could be in the building of programs, a stronger rehabilitation program for those affected by drugs.
Or scholarship
or
for the
scholarship
children.
for the children or families of victims. It can be that And that can be done very quickly, and that makes a bigger statement politically and in the life of the nation, instead of just focusing on the fight between Marcos and Duterte, which, by the way, is petty, partisan, and personal, but the externality of it is that it has created some space for progressive initiatives, for truth-telling.
Well, as a vlogger, I like it because it's a good hook.
Yeah.
And then you bring it to the real issue. And I want to talk about the real issue towards the end of our discussion right now. First of all, at the personal level, alam ko, your eye bags are not as bad as mine, but at the personal level,
the makeup is...
maybe you have better makeup than me. At the personal level, how did you emotionally process it? Because it's really a surreal moment, right? This is like stuff of novels. Again, I'm saying as someone who has been saying for months, I've been accused of being a fake news peddler, pinapatry ko ako ng mga trolls, right? Kasi sabi ko last year pa yan, but eventually it came. I'm still processing it. As someone who has been in the know, kinda, not super in the know, but has got signals here and there in Den Haag, in here. You tell me, my friend, how did you feel about it?
Well, no shiz, sabay-sabay emotions Kinakabahan ako. Masaya ako na aresto. Kinakabahan ako na hindi makakalipad. Right? Na hindi makakalipad. So, we were awake until monitoring. Nakalipad na ba? Nakalipad na ba? Every 5 minutes. Wala pa. Nakalipad na ba? May kaibigan sa tower. Nakalipad na ba? Wagay, lahat na
Area of responsibility.
Right? Tapos baka kasi mapigilan pa. Right? And then makawala. Tapos maging hero pa. Alam mo yun? And a lot of things can So, kinakabahan ka.
When did you see the Camille Villar?
Ingat po sa biyahe.
Oh my God! What is something happened. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, tapos kinakabahan
Oh
ka,
my God,
pero
yeah.
masaya ka. And then, nung finally, nung lumilipad na, nung
Oh my
nakita yung
God.
lumilipad, tapos yung nakita mo yung mga pictures nila. Dadami yung mga pictures nila.
We're not biased,
lahat ng
we're
mga
very objective. It's just, it's just...
I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that I
No, I'm kidding.
teared up.
Like, of course, we want justice. Yeah.
Na talagang lumuha ako, and that's, hindi naman ako yakin alam mo yon. Pero lumuha talaga ako nung nakita ko yung mga pictures nila, tapos nung lumilipad na parang, we've been fighting for this for the last 7 years. For the last 7 years. And you've seen so many victims of crime, diba? Their families. I think I told you in your podcast na
yes, brother.
may scent yung despair.
I know.
Yung despair. When I went to Kian's wake, may scent yung
It's
despair.
a hormone.
Hindi-
You release hormones. It's
Yeah,
literal.
exactly,
It's biological.
And doon ko lang naramdaman yun, yung despair na yun. And then,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, right now, parang there's at least a small
A catharsis,
victory.
ah.
May catharsis. Grabe talaga.
Oo.
Grabe. So, kami
Yeah.
nung lead counsel ni Laila, si Attorney Teddy Regroso. Alam mo, gumanda lang kami. Nag-appear kami, tapos sabi niya, hi, Dino, gumanda lang siya. Tapos tumawa kami ng mga 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Yung talagang halakak, hindi namin ako tumatawa. So, mamaya, lumuha na lang kami. While drinking.
Is it similar feeling to when Laila was freed?
Almost.
Diba?
Almost. Kasi si Laila
You're
was...
having a lot of high moments.
Yeah.
Baka magpa-drug test ka. Kailangan yata ng one-more test.
Yung una, nung nakawala siya.
You
Nung
get a lot of
pangalawa,
high, like-
nung acquitted sa lahat ng
Yeah, I
cases.
know.
Diba? Tapos ito yung pangatlo.
Actually, ganun din nervous din ako kay Ma'am Delima. Baka may last minute na naman na,
Correct,
may
correct.
bantay ba siya? Alam mo,
Correct.
so actually, I'm going through the same emotions after when Ma'am Delima was like, is this happening? Is
nung,
she
nung
gonna be
na-assassinate
safe?
siya, parang gano'n din yung feeling. Parang kinakabahan ka, tapos buhay, tapos hindi mo alam.
She said, like, yung Abu Sayyaf
Yeah,
guy that
yeah,
she
yeah,
almost killed her
yeah,
inside the
yeah,
jail. Ikaw, Prof, you were my prof in Political Science, Philippines 101. It was actually one of my least favorite topics back then. Little did I know one day this will be my
See, I told you you should
bread
study
and
hard.
butter. Bread and butter. So
Yeah.
thanks to you, Prof. You personally, how do you feel? Because it's so easy to be cynical if you're just looking at Philippines. Like, ang daming nakaka-stress and frost. But this feels different, right?
Yeah, it feels different.
Yeah.
Obviously, here's my take, ha.
Please.
We hope President Duterte will be safe in his journey, no? This is the process is going to go through. We'll probably give him a chance to clear their name, okay? And my position is, this is good because it's a step forward as far as our human rights victims are concerned. As communicators, no?
Yeah.
We take a side.
Please.
We're always, everything is political. It's okay to be partisan every now and then, But I want to go to the higher plane always, diba? What's the policy implication of all of this? What's going to happen after this? See, people have to understand a lot of what we're seeing now, okay, was initiated by the hard work of civil society, which we have to recognize.
Absolutely.
This case did not happen overnight. Didn't just fall from the sky. It's been 7 long years, diba? And for the victims,
Just like the Lima,
society-
7 long years.
Yeah, and yeah.
It's the magic number,
Yeah,
apparently.
But the question is, can this happen again?
Yeah.
Diba? Will it happen again? Diba? Ang point natin is, how can we prevent it? The next question, how can we prevent this kind of nightmare from happening again? Of course, the simple as don't vote for them in 2028, don't vote for that brand of politics. But I'm more focused on building institutions. Because institutions for me matter eh. And the most bare bones definition of institutions, the rules, the law.
Yeah.
If we can enshrine this in the law, we can come up with programs and build stronger capacity for government to protect rights, inform our voters and our citizens about their rights, and so it doesn't happen again. You see, this happened at a time when there was no declaration of martial law. But
Yeah.
rights were trampled on. This should never happen again. But maybe God sent, nag-away ang Duterte and Marcos, and a space came out, no, for all of this to emerge, no. But now we have to have some intention. So civil society, academics like us, we have to push for certain things to happen, and that policy reform has to be towards building stronger institutions for protecting rights, for limiting state power in certain areas, for creating a free press. Right now, the fight has exposed how bad the state apparatus can be used by different political families eh. But I'm not satisfied by the storyline. Kapunta si Duterte doon. You know, he'll get his own due process there. I'm very sure the ICC will protect his rights.
First
also.
world treatment, great healthcare system. Yeah.
But this storyline cannot end with that eh.
Correct.
I'm sad na kung yun lang hinahabol natin, wala, and the administration will not generate any more support if it stops there. This is a genuine opportunity for the administration to change the narrative, to make it look like it's willful and intentional about this.
And is Sara impeachment the next logical move?
Yeah, but you know, the Sara impeachment will have is a political move, no?
Yeah.
And that
But this was
calculation
a
is still
political
ongoing.
earthquake.
Yeah, this is a bigger earthquake than the Sara impeachment.
But it could affect that other
yeah,
one.
but you see, here's the thing.
Aftershocks.
I keep telling you about this.
Yeah.
We have to ensure that that brand of politics, which violates rights, which undermines the interest of the everyday Filipino, should not come back. Now, I'm not naming names, no, but it's a brand of politics, this kind of populism that seems to be
Far right,
far extreme, no?
Yeah.
Kind of populism that is pervasive now
Around the world.
around the world and in the Philippines.
Yeah, of
We have to
course.
stop that. And the only way to stop that is for government to, ensure good governance. It's important for citizens like us to ensure that institutions work and are accountable. So I think we have to elevate that discussion there because it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
What if the next, see, we're in a democracy.
Yeah.
We're not certain that forces that want this will never come back to power.
Yeah.
There's no data to show that the brand of politics that brought about this nightmare in the first place is not certain to come back.
Or
You just said it,
actually the
pros-
data is the other way. Berlusconi went back, Trump went back. So last one on you. Do you think a Sara impeachment, because at least unlike the two of us, you have no pretension to objectivity. You think, sorry. No duty to objectivity as a social scientist. Sorry about that, Prof. I'm with you. I meant myself. Because Sara is still within the heartbeat of the presidency as we speak. I mean, she doesn't even have to wait until 20. God forbid something happens to the current president, which is never impossible in this crazy world, right?
Yeah.
Or they're hoping for.
I mean, Trump had 2 assassination attempts already. I mean, we live in a world of many possibilities, including dark possibilities, right? You think Sara impeachment is the next logical, political, and legal step? Political meaning, you're Marcos na, you rolled the dice na di ba?
Well, ako kasi duluhan yan, 'di ba? So, making sure that they will never come back would mean that the actions of the Marcos administration must be deliberate, by design, strategic, right? What does that mean? Impeachment is one of them, but I agree with Senator Trillanes this morning in his interview that you ought to make sure that you track where their money is. You freeze their assets because they will use that to come back to power. We've seen that already with the Marcoses, right? We were only able to recover, let's say, $2 billion, but the data shows that it's more than that. So where did the money go?
Panama Papers.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So where did the money go? And that's the reason why they were able to come back to power. So sila naman ng OG Alam naman nila paano nangyari yun.
So logistics. Basically logistics.
Logistics. Freeze the logistics.
You
That's
cut off
first.
the legs.
Freeze the
financial legs,
logistics talaga, whatever happens. Know where the money is. Second, make sure that you mobilize on the ground. Third is make sure that they don't have a kingdom, which is Davao. So, I've heard so many comments that the Marcoses are not helping the Nograles set up. Yung mga ganyan. And finally, of course, the impeachment, right? So there are a lot of things. Bottom line is, they have to be a little bit more deliberate. It doesn't stop here. The fight has just begun. The day of reckoning has just begun. And if you begin it, don't let them finish it.
Yeah.
You should be the one to finish it. Ikaw nagsimula eh. Tapusin mo na maayos under your terms. Kasi the last thing that we want is they are the ones who will be able to finish it.
Yeah, again, as Ralph Waldo Emerson said, if you take a stab at the king, you have to finish the job. Otherwise, you're gonna lose your head.
Yeah.
On that very peaceful,
Dark note.
on a very Shakespearean note, thank you very much, everyone, for joining this latest episode of FYI, a Voters Education Program, with not only yours truly, with a fantastic panel of experts and friends here. Catch us again as developments come in and more Group Hague to come in the near future. Salamat.